week on the New to You Show, Perfect Part 3, Daydreams by Joe Pisapia. Welcome to another episode of New to You Show, a water cooler show of recommendations where we bring things that may not be new to the world, but maybe they're new to you. With me this week is
Keith Vincent. I just want to say, I don't know if I like it being called a water cooler thing. Does people even understand that reference anymore? Do people hang around water coolers anymore?
Yeah, they adjust their TV
Why don't
antennas.
we just say we're just like, on the internet telling people stuff they might like?
Because maybe we aren't on the internet. Maybe we're on a glass disc being listened to by a intergalactic civilization.
Oh, man, I hope we're on that golden record in the sky.
That's good.
Yeah, it could be an acid cooler, whatever your species is into.
Yeah.
It could be liquid coolant that you need to survive.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm Keith Vincent, and with us as always
Is Julian Cage,
And I'm Pat Cupples,
special guest.
special guest.
All right.
very special, very guest.
I'm John. I didn't say who I was, I don't think.
Wait, I think Pat is the perfect guest.
Oh yeah, he is.
Thank you.
Wow.
I mean,
I took
no
my shoes
disrespect
off.
against the
Yeah.
other guests that we've had, but
Yeah.
But they weren't
but
on for the
Pat
perfect
did it.
theme.
Pat
you
did
know?
it.
I
He
took my
pulled it
shoes
off.
off. I put the lid down.
Yep,
Yeah, I'm a good guest.
he is.
Did the
He
dishes.
offers to do the dishes, even though we don't let him.
And this
He
week
offers
he's
to
got a
take the
pick,
sheets
I think.
off.
Right?
Yeah, you
He's
got
got a
some.
pick.
You brought some tunes with
I
you
brought.
this time.
I brought an album.
But before we get into that,
Okay.
what's new to me this week?
Oh, he's always got a butt in there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Get in there.
me.
Excuse me.
Tell us about your thing, but first.
But
Yeah.
first,
But first, there's so many new things.
Yeah, what's new to
Pick
you,
one.
Holt?
Well, I could talk about the wicked Game of Thrones trailer.
Yep, the new one just dropped.
Yeah.
a good trailer.
No, it's the wicked Game of Thrones trailer.
What makes it so wicked?
The fact that it's Wicked Games by what's his name being
Chris
covered,
Isaac?
Oh, yeah.
being covered
Yeah.
for the thing. There's the Ghostbusters trailer and the recut to make it less, I guess, Adam Sandler-y for some people's taste. But we won't talk about that. What I will talk about is House of Cards season 17 or 18.
Did you start
I
it?
think it's 4.
Okay, season 4.
Season. Yeah. It's competing with The Simpsons.
Yeah,
Their longest
it's
running.
getting there. Longest streaming television series. So yeah, season 4.
It was on Netflix before Netflix even streamed content.
Yeah.
As of this episode, we've been binging it. So we'll date the show by saying that I've been binging it for the week or whatever, and we're on episode 10. And the fact that we're recording tonight cuts into watching more episodes, which is an issue, I think. We watched the Big Lebowski for Jules' pick, which will be next week. And then but had to time it so we had time to watch another episode before we went to bed. So
So does that mean it's pretty good season?
it's a good season.
I have so many predictions having not seen it. Like I remember at the end of the last season, I just sat around and talked with my wife, and I was like, "Do you think this could happen? Do you think this could happen? Do you think this could happen?" And we did that for what's
So
it
you
been,
haven't
16
seen it
months?
yet to
I
see if
haven't
any of
seen it.
those things?
No.
I love doing that. I always, after a thing, I'll always be like, here's what I think's
Here's
going
what
to
I think,
happen.
Yeah.
And then I get to be like, oh, I missed it. Or like, yeah, I knew that was coming so long ago.
On some shows where the stakes aren't too high, I will pause. Like stakes are
Yeah.
high if it's something where like I'll get yelled at for pausing or something. But if I'll pause and be like do a TV psychic
Yeah.
moment, like
Yeah.
hold the episode up to my forehead and declare what's going to happen.
I wrote a
That's
prediction and I mailed it to myself so it can be opened in a court of law. in
So
case-
please bear with me while I get my envelope opener.
He didn't do it. Mariska Hargitay was right. The end. I've solved SVU.
Way to go.
Season-
That show can finally go away.
Did you make predictions? Are they coming true? I don't
On
want
this-
to know them or
So
specifics.
what's actually kind of fun for me is before the series came out, I was excited to see it before the first season came out, and I watched the British series that was streaming at the time.
Are they
I don't know if
following
it's-
it? Ugh, I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry,
not
I'm
gonna
a bad-
say, but that's what's really fun about the
I'm
series.
no longer the perfect guest.
No, but that was a great setup. What the the good thing about the British series and this series is that there are things in common, and because the political system is different and the strength of the characters is different, there are enough variations that it keeps you guessing. And so it's another level of, ooh, well, I know what happens in this telling of the story. I wonder, one, if it's going to happen, and two, if it does happen, how they're going to tell it. Because, you know, the important thing about tension, like Hitchcock says, you show what's going to happen, and the tension is what's going to happen to either get them there or how are they going to get out of it. Like, you reveal the information, then the tension is the characters being caught in that situation or being led into that situation.
So do you like Kevin Spacey or Ricky Gervais better?
Wait, but Ricky Gervais was...
He's the British House of Cards guy.
Yeah. I know. I guess at the end of the day, I think it would have to be James Spader when he stepped in later. Sorry, I'm spoiling this season. But
yeah, well, when he became Ultron, everybody knows he became Ultron. It's right in the trailer.
Right. Claire, I've made this robot. Claire, I could do it. I could do it almost right.
That's pretty good.
I'll get there. I'll break it out later when we're talking.
But you would say, hey, everybody, go out there and watch that House of Cards show.
I think we might probably have talked about House of Cards in the past on this
I
series.
don't think we have. Do you remember that, Julian?
I don't know. Maybe
we mentioned the Song Exploder.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I did. I've been calling back to myself a lot this season, calling forward to myself too. But the
precog.
Yeah. Self precog.
Precog in the machine.
I'm gonna punch you. Who'd have thunk it?
You're the self-fulfilling prophecy of the internet. Anyway, moving on.
Yes, you should watch the series. Really good. All the performances are standout. Even if spoilers are an issue, but even if someone spoils the show for you, just watching it all unfold is a pleasure. And all the characters are fun. The way the story turns and twists, really just entertaining. Just a good show. Well worth watching.
Good. And you're in 10 episodes in of this season?
10 of season 4. So we're 3 shy of completion of this season. So then we have to wait another year. Or so. Who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe
they
this
didn't
is
even
it.
say that this was going to come out.
This could be it.
I was just walking on the subway the other day.
Whoa.
It was like March 3rd or March 2nd. It said new episodes March 4th. I was
Whoa.
like, what? I didn't hear about this.
Bam!
Just bam.
All of
Somebody
them,
put up a
all at
subway
once.
poster.
That's Kevin Spacey, man. He
That's
sneaks
so
right up
good.
on you.
And you're like, damn it, there goes my weekend. God damn it.
I
Kevin
feel
Spacey
like,
did it again.
I feel like House of Cards 2 is almost like a new playground for all of the actors from Deadwood.
Yeah.
Like
of
the
Cards
Deadwood
2?
actors are just in. Maybe it's just a few of them, but
Just a
House
few,
of
but
Cards
still.
2.
House of Cards 2.
Yeah.
What?
The sequel.
That's what you said. House of Cards 2.
Oh, did I? Did I mean as well?
I think you did mean as
I
well.
think you meant
okay.
the sequel to
Also.
the series.
Anyways, it's good to see the Deadwood actors getting work. They deserve it.
Yes, indeed.
That's a show that deserves another viewing.
Yeah, he
Deadwood.
stopped with 1 episode left.
I was going to make that same joke.
They actually wrapped that one up real nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually like that show.
Especially when the wood
Carnival.
died.
That show and The
Nobody
Wire.
saw it coming.
I think that show and The Wire. Like, there were a few shows that on HBO that they never knew if they were going to get renewed. And so they always ended each season real nice and tidy. And I love that about that.
I don't remember Carnival ending nice and tidy.
No, not
Carnival
Carnival.
was a
Sorry,
mess.
Got it.
but I think both Deadwood and The Wire both like each season would really have a nice bow on the end at the end. Like everything was real tidy.
Yeah.
The Sopranos.
Nice. And I can't wait to watch House of Cards.
Yeah? Are you going to put Mad Men on the shelf?
Nope. Gotta finish that first.
I was for some reason I was having a hard time psyching myself up for it. So now you got me
For House of
juiced
Cards?
up. Yeah.
It's
I think
fun.
so. The season 3 was kind of a slow.
I don't even need
slow
to watch
burn.
House of Cards. I feel our real political system is far more entertaining.
Well, it's kind
And
of
far
scary.
more like fiction based
Yeah.
than
really
House of
is.
Cards.
Far more
I could
outlandish.
see a presidential candidate killing somebody before I could have imagined this.
Yeah.
But that's what's scary too, is when House of Cards is the bright, hopeful future. Like it's our West Wing now of our political climate. It's like West Wing's a fucking fairy tale. What are you talking about?
Yeah, really.
House of Cards is our
It's so crazy.
shining castle on this.
Yeah, no kidding.
wild.
I remember when it was Dave.
Yeah. So House of Cards, that's what's new to me this week. But yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So let's get into things, right? So Perfect. Keith started us off with Adventure Time episode. I followed it up with Stray Bullets comic. And now, Pat, you've got something.
Why don't you let go of my heart and make a new start? I'll break it clean away from all these tunnels that I get trapped inside,
Yeah, I'm bringing the album Daydreams by Joe Pisapia, and it was so new to me, and probably about the time it came out, 2006, 2007. But I'm guessing for most of the world, it's new to them. Joe is not an artist that does a lot of self-promotion. He doesn't tour very much, and he doesn't put out a lot of new work very often. So he kind of just put out this album, homemade. He's from Nashville, Tennessee. He's got a beautiful studio down there. And to kind of set the scene a little bit, I was touring with a good friend of mine, Sid, who we formed a band years later called Hotels and Highways. But we were just driving across the country, and Sid is one of these guys that actually plays music. He had this huge iPod back in the day, and a lot of the music he played was of our contemporaries, friends, and which I thought was so cool. I don't think that I had ever really done that or experienced it growing up and playing music. I wouldn't casually listen to the people that were playing shows with me, and part of it was he was playing shows with some really amazing bands on the East Coast and around. And so he played this album, and he played, I think, the song Sometimes, and it's kind of got a acoustic guitar and a banjo-y thing happening, and a real loose feel. It just blew me away, and the sound of Joe's voice, and the whole thing kind of just caught me off guard, and I listened to this album. We were driving probably across like Arizona or Nevada or something like that, one of those long drives that, and I probably listened to it 3 times in one night. And I just remember Sid was probably sleeping or doing some emailing on his the old Treo or something like that. It was one of those phones that you could link up to your computer.
A smartphone.
A smartphone before,
but like
it was
a proto smartphone.
Yeah, Palm Pilot days. And I was just zoning out to this album, and it changed. I think why I bring it up in perfect is because a lot of times in music people try to make perfect recordings and perfect songs, and there's something about the spirit of this album that Joe doesn't try to make anything perfect. He just makes it feel good and lays it down, and kind of the combination of carefree attitude. I don't want to say that he doesn't care, but he when it feels good, he's done. And that was a new definition of perfect for me as a musician.
At that time.
At that time, yeah. I had done a lot of recording and learned to play with a click track, and I'd recorded myself in hotel rooms singing, and I think I was too careful. And I've got a song that I wrote called Spring Street Baby that was almost sort of a rip-off of Sometimes. The beginning of it kind of has like a acoustic count off, where you play chromatically down the strings and to get into the song. It was such a freeing thing to try to emulate this guy. So I was lucky enough There's the album is so great. I'll talk a little bit about some of the songs, but also to skip ahead a few years, we have a personal connection with Joe, Sid especially. And when we visited Nashville for an ASCAP showcase a few years ago, Joe invited us into his studio just to hang out and show us around. He had just produced Katie Lang's new album, and her water bottle was still sitting there, and we all were kind of excited that she, this water bottle said Katie. I'm not a huge Katie Lang fan, but she was a big star and still
Katie
is.
Lang
Yeah,
a lot,
she's
yeah.
great. And so I was kind of just excited about being there probably a few days afterward. And Joe was playing us some stuff. Sid nudged him and pushed him to play us some of his own music that he'd been working on for, if this was 3 or 4 years ago, he'd been working on it for like 7 years, and it hadn't seen the light of day. And so I said, why don't you pull up one of those tracks? And he found one, and we listened to it, and we talked. And so we went to our show that night, and he got too busy to come out. So he called us up, and he said, I'm really, really sorry I didn't make it to your show. Can you guys come back here to the studio? We can hang out and talk a little bit more. And we stayed up all night, and he had us sing on his album.
Oh, wow.
And it was just
That song that you had listened to?
the song that we had listened to earlier in the day.
Cool.
Yeah. He's just an exciting character, and he's not a friend. I don't know if he would know who I am, but he's just a great guy, and this album and his spirit as a musician is pretty perfect. Yeah.
But your friend Sid, though, he would be considered a friend. With
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
Okay.
So Sid played in a band for a number of years with his drummer named Sam Smith, who's also from Nashville. And Sam was good family friends with Joe Pisapia. Whenever they were in Nashville, they would see him and talk to him. Sid has most recently done, Joe produced an artist named Mia Dyson, who I had produced her last 2 albums with Sid. So they're working with Joe. I have a sort of a little pipe dream of working on a song with Joe, or maybe a album someday. But yeah, he's we have this connection, and he's done a lot of work with Sam as a drummer. Sam's played on some stuff. Sam now drums with Ben Folds, and
wow.
so Sam hooked Joe and Ben up, and Joe produced the latest Ben Folds 5 album, which Sam wasn't a part of.
Wait,
because-
Ben Folds 5 with the original drummer?
Yeah, so Sam took a
Jesse
step out.
Darren Jesse? Darren Jesse, I think. Is
Yeah.
it? Darren Jesse Darren.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
So Sam stepped out of the way, but made the connection and said, you guys should get together. And so
Awesome.
Joe produced that album. So I remember when I was in college, this is back in like 98, the first time I got thrown out of a bar, I was going to see a band called Guster. And they were just starting up. They were playing this place called the Blind Pig in Ann Arbor. And their drummer played bongos with sticks, and then the other 2 guys played acoustic guitar. And I didn't see any of the show. So I got thrown out to the curb for drinking underage. Guster was this college. They did really well on the East Coast. They probably played a lot in Boston. And
Yeah.
big success in the acoustic world. And then Joe actually joined their band as a producer and a bassist and a multi-instrumentalist, and produced and came up with like what I would call the commercial sound of Guster. And you can hear his work all over the place. He has a favorite keyboard sound that he uses on Daydreams that makes its way into some Guster recordings. And whenever I'm on some kind of Pandora station that's, I would say like indie electronic rock stuff, some Guster song comes on, and I'm like, oh, there's Joe. Yeah.
That's cool.
But yeah, so he had some success with them, and now he's still just grinding away, and put out a new album recently.
Did it have the song on it that you guys?
It did, yeah,
Wow,
it did.
cool.
It came out in 2015, right?
Yeah, it's Night Vision is the name of
Yeah.
that. And we sang on a song called Burned Out. It's a pretty awesome song. He was just really cool to watch work. He talked about when he would sing different parts and different harmonies and stuff. He said each one of them is a character that I'm playing, almost like doing like a cartoon voice or something like that. And so he said, when I can separate myself and play a character, I don't worry about whether or not it's right, or or how it functions musically, because it's just this other person singing it, and you can hear it. It's
as
really
a producer,
fun.
you must have to do that.
Oh, it's so
recording
great.
yourself.
Yeah,
because-
yeah. It's been a great lesson.
Yeah,
I've in the recordings I've made sense that I definitely throw on a little swagger or throw another kind of touch of emotion.
a
in.
layer of character.
A layer of character. Yeah, definitely. And it totally works. Yeah, this guy's great, and I don't think that he doesn't try to put his name out there. If you get a chance, you should check this album out.
Did you? Do you know how old is he?
I don't know. He had a whole life before Guster, and he was in a band called Joe Mark's Brother, and they were in the early '90s when bands were being signed. Like if you started a band, you got signed.
Yeah.
I think that they were kind of like that. They were they had some really cool music that I've listened to, and really successful around Nashville, and never made it nationally.
So he grew up around Nashville.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's I'm pretty sure. I don't have his Wikipedia,
Right.
but I think he's been there as long as I've known about him, and years before.
Looking at his Wikipedia, he's about 10 years older than us.
Oh, okay.
So he's 75.
Right.
He's in his like mid to late 40s. So
Yeah. He's a
Thanks
cool
for
guy.
ruining the joke, Holt.
Yeah.
It
what?
would have been great.
What are you talking about?
I don't know.
Is there a joke? Did someone say something funny?
I'll chat about a couple of amazing songs, real quick. Sometimes is the song that I ripped off. It's really great. And my song that I ripped off is called Spring Street Baby, if you ever want to look it up. And it would come under the moniker Patrick Thomas, because I used to go by my middle name. Interesting side note.
Because people would spell couples.
People would
with
spell couples.
Couple.
That's exactly why.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I
And,
understand that
yeah,
reasoning.
So I went by my middle name. I never thought that I could be famous with the name that I was born with for some reason. I was right.
I think a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, but it kind of created a character for a while, and then when I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, I was just, what am I doing?
Well, that's our friend of ours, Daryl, had like his real name is Blood,
Yes.
but he changed his name
His
to
real last name is Blood.
That's
Daryl Blood.
great.
Yeah.
It's a great
But
name.
he used to go by Daryl Green. Well, I mean, there are reasons for that, but when he was
Yeah.
performing, it was Daryl Green.
Yeah.
like when he was in Turkish Delight
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah.
But that's such a great artist name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daryl Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have gone by that.
I'm sure there's more story to it than that. We might be giving it
it's-
short shrift, but
It was always sort of like, all right.
You got the
You're-
coolest
you
name.
well,
Yeah,
a good friend, a good friend of mine, his name is John Dupree, which is a perfect
That's a great name.
singer-songwriter name.
Yeah.
But when he put out one of his records, he decided he was going to be Jack Needus, which was, I think, the name of his grandfather or something, which is cool. But I was just like, it's great, but John Dupree is
John
way
Dupree's
better.
really good.
But
yeah.
but if you're listening, John, I like it both ways. You're cool.
Yeah, so sometimes is a great song to, I mean, you can just start at the beginning of the album, but Joe has
I would
these-
recommend starting at the beginning. I
It's a
feel like
cool-
the whole
cohesive
record
album,
flows in a
yeah.
nice way.
he does he does a cool kind of intro thing it's like a non-song,
Yeah.
it's like he's almost describing his creative process in a way in the song Daydreams, and I feel like a lot of this album, as a songwriter, I listen to it and maybe other people hear it differently, but he talks about his left brain and his right brain in some of the lyrics, and he like it's almost like he's definitely writing about his process, but you don't need to get that far into it.
Well, that's interesting that you said that, because I didn't read that far into it
That's
yet.
good,
But
yeah.
with that context, it's going to kind of feel differently now. I think.
And there's also I think the song Home, which is track 7, is a little interlude. Like there's these little moments on here where you can hear him brushing his teeth
Yeah, that has
and making like different different sounds. It's just like it's as if he's just invited you into his world, which is really cool.
And I think that does get to the idea that you were talking about, where he kept the edges.
Yeah.
It's like you get to see the bones, and it's definitely something that we see. How many times have you seen a friend whose their performance is really great live, and then they get to the album and they just master and master and master till it's just polished, almost unlistenable version of their original track.
It's like where is the blood? Where is the I'm guilty of it. When I listen back to my first 2 releases, I'm just like you're not singing it out, like you're being careful and you're trying to hit the notes and sometimes
do you think that's studio freeze up, like you're freezing up because you're in a studio? Or
I lived in a loft in Greenpoint, and I built a 6x7 or 7x7 cube. It's not a great studio environment, and there was no free flowing air. There was no ventilation device, and then I would sleep on top of it. There were like 4 of us artists living in this huge loft, and so like I built this thing. So I think having no oxygen was part of it, possibly. But just
because let's face it, air would affect the sound.
It would.
Yeah,
it would.
I mean, you don't want that air getting in there, getting between your mouth and the microphone.
I was talking about this with Eric Corte, who's you guys know him, and he's really into Frank Sinatra, and so he was showing me some recordings, some YouTube clips of Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra would always have a peanut gallery in his recording sessions. And
in the booth?
So he recorded with a symphony around him and a
Right.
mic like this in front of him for, you at home and podcast land. Like, we've got some nice mics in front of us.
Right.
He would sit there, and then off 20 or 30 feet off to the right would be a peanut gallery. And he would joke around and he would perform for them, and you can hear it in his voice. So I think the main reason, not necessarily the oxygen, was I wasn't singing to anybody.
Yeah.
And I think that people close off when they get into studio situations. I'm really good as a producer because when people are singing, I'll sit behind the glass and dance and do, like, I'll try to show them that this is a fun process and you're performing, we're performing together, and it's not supposed to be uptight. But from my own fault, I would sit in this little cube by myself and try to make it right. And the few times that I didn't do that, I would have my now wife, who, we had just met at the time, sitting there with me, and I would sing to her. And when I would have friends sing, and when I started singing when I started recording with other people in the room, everything changed. And
Because people would pass out from the lack
people
of
would.
oxygen.
You would steal their oxygen?
Well, I've moved on from the 7x7 cube. No, but in big studios, it's really fun to sing for people, and
Yeah.
it's really fun to see the smiles on their faces.
It's intimidating to just be in a kind of an aquarium,
Yeah.
a padded aquarium, and it's just you and your backing track.
It's really weird. It's not really how music's supposed to be done.
But that's bringing it back to this. You can hear, like you said, the spontaneity that you had mentioned earlier. I don't know if you used that word, but there is sounds to me as though there's a level of spontaneity in the songs that feels, like you said, he didn't look for the perfect sound, he looked for the just right sound for that thing. And then once he hit it, done. I don't need it anymore.
I find when I'm writing and sometimes putting ideas down for the very first time, they are as close to perfect as they might ever get.
Yeah.
As
As a person who draws, I'm the same way. Like,
Yeah.
once I get that right, I'm like, don't ask me please to draw
Please
this
don't
again,
ask
because
me. Yeah.
I will take this, I'll scale it, I'll do whatever you want, but don't make me draw it again because it's perfect.
Yeah, I'm a little intimidated. I re-recorded a song, and I've got all of the tracks done, but the demo version of it has one of the best vocals I've ever sung in my entire life, and I'm intimidated that I want to recapture that.
Right.
I don't know if I'll do it.
You got to make the character.
Just got to make the character.
That's right.
Yeah. So hopefully I'll let you guys know when that song's out.
Yeah.
And
Well, if you want us to be the peanut gallery, I'll be in there.
we'll do it later tonight.
I'll keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, that sounds good. So, a couple highlights. Sometimes, obviously, it's really cool the way I don't know if he's a banjo player. He kind of plays it like guitar. Really, kind of.
It could
loud,
be a
plucky.
good. What is that? What is they make an instrument that's basically a banjo snare, but strung like a guitar.
I have one. Yeah.
Guitar-jo or
Guitar
banjo
Joe,
guitar or
Yeah.
something.
Banjar.
Yeah, there you go.
It's really fun to play. It's actually
It
kinda
sounds
hard.
great.
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
great. It's great because you can,
My brother-in-law and sister play one. It's just like, could have fooled me. Sounded like a banjo.
yeah.
Now, is he doing all the instruments?
Yeah, he does.
I know there's some like backing vocals and stuff.
I think that somebody else plays drums and somebody else does stand-up bass. I think his brother plays one or the other, and then
His brother Mark.
His brother Mark, Joe Mark's brother.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
I love it.
Yeah, it's such a great name for a band. And he plays beautiful piano. Again, not perfect. The best.
Does he do the organ? Because the organ stuff is so tasty.
Yeah,
on
the
that.
organ that's like his flavor.
Yeah,
You know, like
it's really, really nice.
when he sits down, you just know that he's playing. He sat down at this beautiful piano that he has in his studio. It's from the 1800s, just before 1880s or something like that. And somebody just left it there because they said, we don't have a good place to keep this piano. Will you keep this piano for me?
Wow.
And as a musician, that's like the greatest thing. But you shouldn't give musicians things to hold on to.
'Cause they'll make
hold
them
on to
theirs,
forever. Yeah. It sounds so beautiful, and when he plays, he has such a unique style. He does piano on a song called "Dancing Partner," which is track 11. Emotionally, like this song is about. I haven't cried since probably I was 19 for some reason. I've got some sort of tear duct block or something. So emotional. This song is one of the closest moments I've gotten to crying, and it's so weird because it's about the narrative, or as much as I can tell, is about a guy who visits an older woman in a senior center, and talks, and I mean he lays it out pretty clearly, but they're talking about love, and he talks about this girl, and then the woman tells him about her dancing partner who is no longer around, and it's so beautiful, and there's little movements and different moments in the song. So check that one out for your your evening cry.
That was the standout track for me when the first couple times I listened to it.
Yeah.
That's the one that really jumped out at me.
And his piano playing is really, it sounds fast. I mean, he's doing the same thing over and over again in different. I wouldn't call it complex, and it's not perfect, but it's perfect. And it kind of goes to the theme of the album. And then the other song that I would really urge you to listen to is "Tell Me You're Mine," which starts with a really cool. It's got kind of an electronic drum thing going and a really simple piano part, but the song kind of builds and builds and builds, and it's a pretty perfect song.
Well, I would say some of the fun things to look out for. I don't know any of the specific tracks, but he comes back to a couple sounds quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But he does this. The drums in a couple of the songs are these really fun, blown out, like full of reverb. Must have been real fun to record.
Yeah.
Just really simple drum beats, but just sounding so trashy. And I don't know what his situation is in Nashville, but I know that it's notorious for wanting super clean drums. If you're gonna be a session drummer in Nashville, it's like clean is the name of the game. So for him, it must have just been cathartic to just put the drums out in a concrete room or something. I don't know how he did it, or if it's just like reverb added after the fact. But it's I just love to hear it when and it's at least 2 or 3 songs that this same kind of ghost drums come in, which I love.
He told us when we were down there that he cut his teeth for years as an assistant engineer, so he learned how to make everything perfect.
Yeah.
And I find it's kind of like the jazz musician that you have to learn all the rules before you can break them. I'm sure it was exciting for him to be able to he probably is just completely over compressing those drums and driving them through I don't know some sort of heavy preamp or something like that. So I know exactly what you're talking about. It's an awesome sound. And he also uses mono drums. He sticks drums off in the left. I think Dancing Partner also has his vocals off on one side, which is really cool and intimate. I have always wanted to do the mono drums thing because I think that I think a lot of Beatles tracks sound really cool.
That's old school. How they would,
really is, yeah. They would create stereo out of two mono tracks. So having the drums off in one channel, it's a cool sound. I've always liked it. I don't know. It's never occurred to me, but whenever I hear it, I was like, I need to do that on the next thing I produce or on one of my tunes or something like that.
Nice. Yeah. I really liked Sometimes. That was one that I don't know. Every time I listened to it, not goosebumps, but like a pressure built, which was really nice.
Well, I would. What is it called when you're tuning your guitar? When you're tuning guitar, and you do kind of is it called chromatics? When you kind of play like right
scales?
on the fret, that like bling, that kind of
harmonics.
Is it harmonics?
Yeah, it's a harmonic.
Yeah.
He uses that very well because he used that also at least 3 songs, the harmonics of the guitar, which from what I can tell is not easy to be consistent with.
It's not, no.
And he did it. I don't know if he's playing the parts there, but I thought that was really. And there aren't many songs that I can think of other than Harvest Moon by Neil Young that really use it as nicely as he does. But it's like a nice little, almost like a harp sound created with your guitar.
Yeah.
And the whole album, it just has this kind of effortless quality to it, and just this, it's just very like chill, like like it's easy going. I don't know. It's very vague terms, but like it just the overall feeling of the whole thing. It's very easy to get into it, and I really liked it right off the bat.
Yeah, and I do think it's cohesive without being muddied into like one long song.
Yeah.
It definitely has distinct,
feel.
interesting music with an overall arc to the record, which is nice, and it feels like an album.
Yeah,
which, it's talking 2006. It's like, I don't know if that's the end of CDs yet or what, but he does have a hidden track in there.
Yeah, and it's got enough solid songs too that like, because sometimes when like I was listening to it while working a few times, and like there's always like some point in the album where it kind of loses you for a while, and then all of a sudden a song comes on and you're like right back in there, and it does that several times. Like it's not, some albums like they got all the good ones up front and then it kind of peters out, or the other way around. But this one's got a lot of solid tracks.
One of the nice things about maybe it's I have a feeling about like whether or not people should even put out albums, and do you have enough good songs, or are you just putting 10 songs on because that's what you think is needed, and I think that was like that age of the CD where like people just finished 2 songs. They said, okay, make 4 more versions of those 2 songs, and you got buried in the crap,
Yeah.
And usually the album was over by song 3.
Or there's the pressure of well, heck, I just put all my songs on my first record.
Yeah.
And I have to put another one out in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's nice
Sophomore
about Joe is that I don't think he has any aspirations as a solo artist, and it allowed him to. Each song really has to have some value to put it out in the world, Just because he recorded it doesn't mean it has to be out. And he waited another 10 years to put out or 9 years to
The
put
follow
out the next.
up.
Yeah.
I will say too, I didn't hear the follow up, the 10-year follow up, but listening to it, one of the takeaways I took away is that I don't feel like there's anything that you can really compare it to. You can't say, oh, it's kind of like this record with this. Sound wise,
You got 2 comparisons.
When he sings some songs, I could hear flashes of Cat Stevens in his voice. That would be about the only thing I compare him to vocally. But other than that, maybe like glimpses of the band.
Yeah.
Maybe, but that's it. Like what an achievement. That's very hard to not and maybe he just sounds like his influences that I am not aware of, which is a distinct possibility. But as I hear it, I'm searching for a foothold to compare it to, and I got nothing.
I mean, a couple things that I found traction within things that I like to listen to. There's a little bit of that like raucous, dirty Elliott Smith kind of stuff before the waltz, where he's like the Baby Britain, it's just like a little like cleaner or like bright room guitar kind of stuff that Elliott Smith was doing, and then some of like the Being There album from Wilco was also some moments of that. Again, like those, I don't think that he sounds like those exactly, just those were things that there are flavors of those that I liked in Joe's album that I really liked in Elliott Smith's Bright tracks and in the Being There album. Just some good moments.
Being There, I think, was recorded in Nashville. I might be wrong about that.
It definitely smelled the same as his album.
He's got such a cool
Fertilizer.
space. I don't think that he recorded this I think he took over his or built his studio after this album was made. So still, it's fun to, having been there, I'll just pretend in my mind that he recorded it there.
So where did he record? Was it like a homemade thing then?
He had a home studio.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
It's
amazing.
a very homemade album. And, as with a lot of indie artists, you'll go into a studio and do drums, but I don't even know if he did that because, having been a working engineer for years, he probably had the mic
he
sitting
could pull
around.
it off.
And that sound, that drum sound you're talking about, can take place in a garage with a metal door and
in a public bathroom. Actually, the way those drums sound, like there's so much reverb, it's like tiles.
Did you spend a lot of time in Nashville growing up?
Not growing up, but my sister lives in Nashville. My brother lived there until just recently. So since I graduated high school, I've been going to Nashville often.
It's got such a cool scene. We had a couple days before a big conference there, and my band, the Hotels and Highways band, we have a member up in Vermont, we have a member in Ojai, California, and myself here in Brooklyn, and so whenever we get together to do shows, we have to like spend 2 days before learning the songs again,
rehearsing.
Yeah. So we met up in Nashville before our last tour, and I guess it was maybe a couple tours ago. A friend, Sam's friends were in these, like, they're indie musicians, and they just let us use their garage for like 2 or 3 days, and so we got the experience of being like a Nashville band in March, playing in a nice hot tin roof garage. It sounded great. Wrote a great song in there.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, there's a really cool rock and roll scene going on in Nashville. And I think it's a result of all these great players like learning all their Nashville tricks, and they can go and play all the country stuff, but they've got their heart in indie rock. So,
are you familiar with Lamb Chop? The band Lamb Chop?
Not super familiar, but I think I've heard them.
They're kind of like the kings of that. They started that scene. I feel like they're amazing. Yeah. Do yourself a favor, listen to them.
Lamb Chop?
Yeah.
All right, put that on.
Not to take away from your perfect record, because it really is great. It really is great.
Yeah.
But Lamb Chop, you hear, Lamb Chop was the first band where I remember hearing, they're a Nashville band.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? And then you listen to them and you're like, this is not what I had in mind when I heard of it.
No, I mean, if there is pedal steel, it's played in a way that you've never heard before.
Yeah. I bet you have heard Lamb Chop though.
Yeah.
They have a couple songs that have made their way around. But next time you go to Nashville, let me know.
I will.
Yeah,
I will.
My sister's a mover and a shaker in the Broadway scene down there.
Oh, so. Nice. Yeah, I enjoy the honky tonks.
Yeah.
It's a cool sign. I've yet to today. Speaking of new to you, is my first day wearing a belt buckle, which I told you guys.
Yep.
I've got would you call it an eagle on there?
I think it's a Thunderbird.
Thunderbird. Got a Thunderbird belt buckle. And I have dreams of buying some boots in Nashville, and maybe a hat too.
Nice.
Yeah. and I'll show it off.
Well,
on
you
New
could
to
maybe do it because the wedding's in Texas. You could probably get some boots in Texas.
I know we have an upcoming wedding, which is why I've got the belt buckle for some Western garb. It's in Marfa, Texas, which is the closest town is El Paso. It's 3 hours going probably 90 miles an hour from El Paso.
Which you can do in Texas.
Which you can do in Texas, which is great. Yeah. Everything's bigger, including the speed limits.
Out in the West Texas town of El Paso. That's where you're going.
Yeah, for a
I
night.
fell in love with a Mexican girl.
So Joe's album is on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
You can probably buy it on iTunes.
You can probably, I think you can
It's
buy it
on-
on iTunes and Amazon.
It's also on Apple Music.
Nice. Do you think you could get it for $10 as a UCD store in Nashville?
In Nashville, you know what? I got my hard copy of the CD from Joe.
Wow.
I emailed and I said, "Hey Joe, you may
What
not,
you doing with that gun in
what
your
you
hand?"
doing?" Heard you shot your woman down. Give me that CD. But they'll if they still have copies left 10 years later, you might be able to get one from Joe. I think it's a small operation down there.
Nice.
I'd say stick to the digital stuff.
Yeah.
In this case.
Yeah.
In this case.
Yeah. It's easy. It
Download
sounds
the
good.
Flax.
Yep. He'll still get some money.
Yeah.
Some monies.
And Pat, are you guys touring anytime soon?
The Sid, the connection with Joe, is expecting his first child in 5 or 6 weeks. I think maybe
Congratulations,
less.
Sid.
Yeah, congratulations, Sid. Maybe you'll hear this podcast
In the hospital?
in the hospital.
Push. Breathe.
Wait. Don't push.
Oh,
I gotta
breathe.
finish this
Yeah,
podcast. And I've got to play a show in New York before June. It's my own personal deadline.
Right.
Yeah.
You'll tell us where?
You can find it on patcupples.tumblr.com. Hopefully, I'll have the link. But there's a show listing up there, and I'll let you guys know, and you can tell your audience. Probably somewhere in Brooklyn, maybe Rockwood. I played Rockwood a bunch, and I don't know.
Have you played the new Rockwood space?
The downstairs
one? The
space?
bigger,
Yeah, I
like,
played the
2 doors
stage
down?
2. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't played the downstairs, which is a street over, so they've got 2 bars connecting.
Huh.
And then there's like a little cool
I've certainly
loungy
never seen
downstairs
that one.
space. Yeah. But yeah, the stage 2 is really nice.
I like stage 2.
It's a beautiful space.
Are you guys going to get Henry going and his kid and do Sons of the Highway? Children of the Highway?
He got we were in Hawaii recently, and I was buying ukuleles for our dog sitters because we didn't pay them. So I got them really.
Paid them in coconut monkeys and ukulele.
I got them really
Paid
nice.
you in macadamia nuts.
I got them really nice ukuleles, like real wood
wow.
ukuleles. And we went into the store, and on day 1, my wife convinced me to get a ukulele. It sounded really nice. It's got Brazilian rosewood, and it was a very nice ukulele. So I got that, which I shouldn't have done, but I'll enjoy it for the rest of my days.
So you got on the plane with 3 ukuleles.
I got on the plane. So listen to this. So we bought 2 ukuleles for our dog sitters. But day 1, we walk in, and I don't follow through on my plan because I was so taken aback by buying my own ukulele that I had to leave the store immediately. I was not expecting this. We said we'll be back, and we were actually hoping that they would have a pineapple-shaped ukulele come, which is one of the traditional shapes, I guess. But so we went back the next day, and this woman fell in love with my son both visits, and she gave him this yellow ukulele to play. It had a little dent in it that somebody had, kind of like the floor model type of ukulele, and so we bought the dog sitters ukuleles. And at the end of, and we're talking like,
Were they the pineapple shaped ones?
no, they didn't
okay.
get me the pineapple shaped ones.
Did you just put a can of Dole pineapples in that hole in there?
We made a Mai
It's
Tai.
traditional.
We made a Mai Tai in the ukulele.
Slosh.
And she gave Henry this real wood ukulele.
Wow.
Yeah, she just gave it to him.
That's
So
really nice.
we flew 3 connections back to New York from Hawaii
carrying four ukuleles and
Man.
a carry-on. We made it.
Good job. And the ukuleles made it back.
They've
safe
made
and
it
sound.
back. They sound great.
And your dog sitters were like, "Thanks, but your dog bit my fingers off, so now I can't play."
Yeah.
Every time I see that ukulele, it reminds me of what I've lost.
Salt in the wound. Yeah, I think they were very excited with our gift. Yeah.
Why wouldn't you be?
Yeah.
That's great.
Maybe they would have preferred the cash, but it's a good gift.
It's cash in the form.
Yeah, they could sell them.
It's the story.
It's a barter system, man. It's
Yeah.
older than capitalism.
Yeah, Bitcoin.
Yeah. But one more time, the name of the Joe
Joe Pisapia's
Pisapia's
Daydreams.
Daydreams. Beautiful record.
It's a beautiful
Very
record.
beautiful.
It's perfectly imperfect, and yeah, check it out.
It must be really. Listen, I can tell by knowing you and talking to you that perfect isn't the type of word you'd throw around lightly when it comes to music.
Yeah.
So it must be really cool to actually have met and know the person who made a record that you consider perfect. I think that's got to be
It's a cool thing. Yeah, I really appreciate
enviable.
it. Yes,
All right.
definitely.
Well, thanks, Pat.
You're welcome,
Yeah,
guys.
You made it worth having you on.
Awesome. I did it.
Good.
The day I went to visit her soon after she turned 94, the coffee and the Antonins, we talked as if we were old friends. She filled me in on gossip, all the seniors in the complex. We talked about the days gone by, and then she told me with a sigh, it's been 27 years he's passed away. It still feels
Such a question, there are many possible answers, such as hard work.
Feel I'm alone in this whole of
Thanks, everybody, for
existence.
listening
I know
to
it takes time.
another episode of the New to You Show.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of your hosts, John Holt. You can find me on Twitter at LordJoho. Where can they find you, Keith?
They can find me on the internet under earthlingkeith.com. And hopefully we will redirect that URL so it goes to my Tumblr page
Or
by
at,
then.
at Pineapple Fingers.
And I'm Julian Cates. You can find me on Twitter at BeautifulJules. And how about you, Pat?
And I'm Pat Cupples. You can go to Pat Cupples, CUPPLES.tumblr.com. And hopefully patcouples.com will be up shortly. Or Hotels and Highways. And you
Hotels
can
and
see
Highways.
Sid and Lisa and me singing together beautifully.
All right.
And that's
Or
hotelsandhighways.com.
Hotelsandhighways.com. Yeah, /biz.
Children of the Highway.
I shouldn't joke about URLs. It just
Dot
ruins
gov.
it. .gov/biz.us.
Costa Rica.
.XXX.
.au.
All right. So you can find out more about Joe's baby,
Joe's Baby.
Joe's Baby, Joe's Garage,
Joe Pisapia.
Joe Pisapia's Daydream, and the other stuff we've talked about on this podcast on the New to You
Oodles
Show.
of links
Oodles
on
and
our
doodles of links and pictures. We'll have to ask
So
Pat
many
for pictures.
and hopefully Sid's kid will be born and we'll get that picture up there
Yeah.
because everybody wants their kid on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That would be something.
Yes, it sure would.
So you can find out all that great stuff on newtoyoushow.com. You can follow
You
us
can
on
leave
Twitter.
comments there,
Yeah, you leave comments there, or leave comments for us on Twitter at newtoyoushow.
or leave comments on iTunes.
Yep, leave us comments, rate and review on iTunes. You should also subscribe through your favorite app, through the Google Play Store.
If that's what you're into.
Whatever you want to do. Also, share the show with friends because it may not be new to them, but it will be as soon as you show it to them or
Yeah.
something.
In fact, I'm almost certain it might be new to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
Checking
you say
our
though
subscriber
it's a
numbers.
Google? There's a Google.
Yeah, I've
Google
talked
Play.
about it before. Google Play similar to iTunes, is getting in the RSS feed hosting thing. So really they're just a conduit towards listening to things. So if you have your Android device or whatever that doesn't have iTunes on it, you can listen to podcasts without an app. Well, it's an app, but through the built-in music listening device, you can listen to podcasts as well. Just like you would if you're on an iPhone or an iOS device, you can listen to iPad or podcasts and stuff like that on iTunes. But I prefer
on Google Play.
I'm saying the parallel on iOS.
Oh,
is
okay,
iTunes.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
You can download Google Play on your iOS device and listen to the podcast through that.
Right.
But if you're going to do that, I would recommend an app like Overcast. Overcast is a really good podcast hosting app. It can let you play us at double speed.
Listen.
If we talk a little slow.
Yeah,
John,
hey,
I got to stop you right there.
Nice.
Or half speed.
You're going to sit here and be on our podcast and say that there's something better than a Google thing?
As you shall.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. John Holt.
Yeah.
John Holt
Something
said that.
better. But you know who makes those things? Google makes Overcast.
Oh, okay.
They
then.
don't.
Oh.
They don't.
No,
but
they don't.
Yeah.
Lord
so,
Joho. Tumblr.
Yeah. At Pineapple Ukulele Fingers.
Anyway, stay tuned next week. We're gonna have a whole new subject matter.
No, we
a
won't.
whole new theme.
We're gonna have one last.
Oh, that's
One
right.
last-
We
that's
have
right.
another thing.
That's right. The most perfect of
the
all
most
perfects.
perfect. We're gonna reach the pinnacle of perfection next week.
Wow.
With
So this was
Julian's
the
pick.
penultimate of perfect
Yeah.
media things.
We're hitting
So
platonic
Julian.
ideals here. Jules is gonna bring us a Coen Brothers movie starring John Goodman and Nicolas Cage.
Whoa. No.
Gonna be something else.
I don't think Nicolas Cage is in it.
Yeah. He breaks into like a store. Francis McDermott's in it.
Yeah, they chop somebody up in a wood chipper.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds about right.
I got the best one, honey.
Sounds pretty perfect.
I got the best one, honey.
The best one. Blood Simple Lebowski.
Anyway, it's going to be wonderful, and hopefully we will pick one of those movies to call perfect.
Yeah. All right.
Or
So,
Julian will.
gang, it may not be new, but maybe it
it's
was
new to you.
Life is all about the music. This pitiful life is all about the music. This pitiful life is all about the music.
With him together forever, without the limitation of time ever again. So the second coming of the Lord is not dead. They're two separate entities.